Marios Vryonides. I'm a professor of sociology at European University Cyprus, and I have been involved in education programs relating to prisons and prisoners for 10 years now, starting from programs relating to training of prison guards on respecting fundamental rights during the process of exercising their duties, but also more recently on issues relating to basic skills of prisoners, and lately programs aiming at strengthening prisoners in their smooth integration to society. So, yeah, that's the experience so far.
Great. So I just have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Vryonides. The first being, from your personal experience, both through the educational projects in which you have been involved, as well as your academic research, which is also linked to the issue. Could you give us, an overview of how important education is for the future integration of prisoners?
Well, studies have shown, both in the US and in Europe, have shown that the education offered to prisoners is one of the main predictors of avoiding prisoners returning back after their release, what is sometimes referred to as, I'm now forgetting the word, relapsing back to, the deviant behavior. So it's the best predictor. And this is because it deals with issues that may have contributed in the first place on recidivism, because education tackles issues that contribute to deviance from mainstream behavior. And this may be because they have dropped out of school, because they cannot retain a steady job, an income, because they get involved in activities which are outside the framework of law. And so it's very important. It's very important. And this education, the challenge is that when you deal with prisoners, the profile of prisoners is very diverse. And so you cannot design and implement a uniform program that addresses masses of prisoners like we do in conventional education, where you have an age group more or less of similar characteristics. In the prison setting, you have prisoners who have deficiencies, let's say, in reading skills, in technical skills, IT skills. So you need to devise a programs and approaches that provide for individualized approach to cover the needs of prisoners. Each prisoner is one class in many ways. Yeah.
Thank you. So my second question would be linked to something that you have already touched upon by your first reply. So about the gaps and the difficulties and the challenges. One being, as I understand, the very difference of the target population. I just wanted your overview, because you have a very big experience also in European comparative projects. So many prisons have mentioned problems being the continuity or non-continuity of projects in the prisons. So I just wanted an overview of your experience of what would be the main challenges and the main difficulties that one can face when trying to design and implement an educational project in prisons.
Well, since I have, as I told you at the beginning, I have more or less 10 years experience in the prison education of Cyprus. And throughout that time, I have seen more than one prison administration. And I'm happy to say that the prison administration has been very progressive, open-minded, and encouraging in these in implementing innovative programs for prisoners. This was not always the case, and it's not always a given. And so my answer to this is, number one, you need to have very close collaboration with the prison administration, and the prison administration, the directors need to believe and in the value of implementing these kinds of programs for prisoners. So this is number one. Another one is that the people who are involved in prison education, they need to be also progressive educators in many ways. You cannot take a teacher or an instructor who is used to teaching in conventional settings and apply the same methods in the prison. And sometimes not even people who are trained adult educators are not able to provide effective education. You need people who are enthusiastic about what they do, but also who are willing to work outside the box, the expectations of an instructor, to use, for example, more experiential approaches, more group work, role play, these kinds of approaches that engage, be interactive with prisoners, because prisoners need to be engaged. They do not need to be lectured. If you go there with a lecture type approach, you will lose them. They will lose interest. Many of them, particularly in programs who are there to strengthen their basic skills education, if they need to be very different from programs that contributed to their dropout from education in the first place. And let me give you an example. It could be the case that the profile of some prisoners might relate to what we call this syndrome of deficiency in focusing. I don't know what the technical term is. So they lose concentration. They can't follow up somebody speaking to them for 10 minutes, even if the topic is hugely interesting. They need to be doing things. They need to be engaging, interacting with instructors. And in this way, they learn things through experience and not just by memorizing. That's my understanding of prison education in these years.
Great. And just two very, very small last questions. The one is that apart from recidivism, to avoid recidivism, we have been told by other interviewees that there are a series of pros, of advantages of education in prison that are also related to the daily life of prison itself. They present a more let's say a more relaxed environment in the prison as well. So what's your take on that? Do you
Actually
agree?
That's the main finding of one of the main findings of the papers that I will present to your conference next month. It's that sometimes, or not sometimes, we often refer to this intrinsic motivation that a prisoner needs to have to participate. But also there are also external factors that relate to the fact that sometimes while they participate in these programs, this creates to them a sense of escape. It's as if they are not in prison anymore. They are in a regular educational setting. And this feeling of escaping the prison routine is very, very important to them. Unfortunately, in Cyprus, we don't have the incentive whereby people who attend educational programs get reduction of their the penalty they need to serve. We don't have. But without that, it's still a major incentive. For example, in the summer where you have such a high temperatures, to be in an air-conditioned environment, you know. Dealing with issues, it was a nice finding when we had prisoners doing modules and of things that they already knew. And when we asked them, but you're good at that, why are you doing it? It's so much better doing that instead of, doing other chores in prison. So they were doing even things that their profile did not demand that they should do it. And okay, it creates that sense of escape, and that and why not? It's always good to have them in a controlled environment.
Great. And just one last question, a more open one, actually, to if you would add anything as a very good practice that you have seen over the years, or something that you have seen and you were jealous of, and you said, "Oh, I want to do that in my prison as well." I mean, would you have anything to recommend to policymakers as like something concrete as regards prison education?
Yeah, one thing that I've noticed, and sometimes it presented some technical problems to us. It's the lack of internet access in prison. A major issue that is very interesting and challenging is how to introduce some prisoners to the digital age. Of course, this is not a simple matter. I understand that there are issues relating to security, and but I suspect that there are ways now with filters, with monitoring, that you can actually control what they access and how they access things in this media literacy environment, in this digital world. So I would like to see, because this is the future of education as we are experiencing it now during the pandemic. All education turned to the digital world, to the digital era, and it's a pity if education in prison does not take some of the good elements of that aspect of education, this digital education, into their programs as well. And you cannot do it very efficiently if everything you do is offline, and it creates you don't explore the full potentials of the digital education.